What's up, party people? My name is Angelo, and I am a passport brother who brought his fiance from Vietnam to live with me in the United States, where we are now living our best life. Hang on a second, I'm gonna go close this door. Okay, I'm back. So one of the things that I want to talk about today, because I haven't talked about this subject in a while, is the actual idea of meeting someone from another country, flying out to meet them, building a relationship, long distance relationship, and then deciding that the two of you want to get married and live your life together. And against everyone's suggestions, you bring that person to the United States and they get their green card, and then you live this cautionary tale of, on one side, people are saying that you basically just hired a servant, somebody from a third world country, and blah blah blah. And then on the other side, someone is saying, "Oh, she's just here to get a green card and then she's going." Well, both of those things happen, 100%. But what often isn't discussed is the fact that most often those things don't happen, and that people live their lives together with a significant other, wife, spouse, husband from another country. In my case, none of those issues have arisen between Nghia and myself. And a lot of that goes to, I think, the boundaries that you set, the expectations that you have, and how you communicate. Because Nghia and I, we talk a lot about relationships, and the different cultural aspects of being together. And then of course the dynamics of a male mindset versus a female mindset. And so we're constantly talking about these things. And I know what my position is, I know what my belief is, I know what my experience is. And so I just try to convey those things to Nghia, and then hopefully she understands what my perspective is and why I feel a certain way, and then ultimately behave a certain way. And part of that comes with understanding that men and women are inherently completely different animals. They behave differently, they think differently, they process information differently, and so as a result, their reactions are going to be different. So Nghia and I are often having a conversation like that about the differences between men and women. And one of the things that we talked about is, because she was telling me about some issues with some of her friends, and then one of the things we talk about is that there is a big difference in how a man and a woman decide to get married. There's some big difference in the mindset and the thinking and the perspective of marriage. A woman has been looking at this situation for a very, very long time. She's been looking at her wedding day for a very long time. She's imagined it. She's imagined what colors she's going to wear, the decorations, who she's going to line up as her bridesmaid, who's going to be her maid of honor, her dad walking her down the aisle, what kind of dress she's going to have. If it's the back going to be out, it's going to be, showing a little cleavage, if it's going to be demure. She's been thinking about this thing for a long time. And with that thinking, she believes that her marriage is going to change her life on a crazy, upward momentum projectile to the stratosphere of greatness, and all of her life's wishes are going to be fulfilled, and she's going to be taken care of, and she's not going to have a worry in the world because this man is going to make sure she's got everything that she needs. Okay, that's typically how most women go into marriage. A man, completely different. And it's not to say it's better or anything, but it's very different. And women don't seem to understand that. It's very different. Man goes into a relationship thinking, okay, I got to knuckle down. I'm going to have a wife. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to have a lot of responsibility. This thing is going to be hard. I'm going to have to probably work extra shift hours or pick up a second job because I know we want to get a home. And I promised I was going to get a new car. And then we want to take vacations. And then if we have kids, you know, maybe private school, maybe this. But then there's college tuition. And oh yeah, I got to get my stuff together. This is going to be hard. So do you see the difference? Woman said, oh God, this is going to be just the greatest thing ever. And a man says, wow, this is going to be hard. And so there is no choice but to butt heads at some point down the road because they're looking at it differently. And, you know, men will try to avoid conflict and they will just simply just say, hey, you know, whatever you want, girl. Okay, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. But a woman is usually, she's looking for more. She's looking for betterment. And this causes a problem with many, many relationships. Now, I bring all of this up because the perception of marriage in different countries is different. And particularly is different in like Southeast Asia. Because while there are some customs where it's almost, and I disagree with these customs. There are some customs where it feels like, you know, the man's family is essentially, you know, paying money for this woman after the marriage is done, the wedding is done, then it's, okay, it's time to get to work. It's not, oh, make my dreams come true. It's like, okay, how do we work together to make this life happen? You know, so like I was talking about setting boundaries. And one of the things that I talked about with Nghia, when we were still just dating and, you know, I flew to Vietnam a few times, I told her that I was not about spending an exorbitant amount of money on a wedding or reception or a wedding party. That while I understand the fairy tale dream that a woman wants, and I get it, I'm not spending that money, or I'm not going into a relationship by spending tens of thousands of dollars that I'll never be able to recoup. I'm not doing that. That, to me, that's not smart business. And a marriage is a business because you're putting two different sets of resources together, hoping that the whole is better than the individual parts, is greater than the individual parts. So that's what you're doing with a relationship. It is like a marriage. So it is like a business. So Nghia and I, we had that conversation, you know, many, many times. And I would simply just say, hey, babe, I get it. But if this is that important to you, you should have it. You should have it. You should go after that. But it's not going to come from me, because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. And we found a compromise. And that's what a relationship is. It's a compromise. But again, the idea is about the different perspective in men and women, and then the different perspective in women from Western countries and women from Eastern countries, particularly Southeast Asia. Mindsets are different. And I'm bringing all of this up because recently I had a very weird interaction with a very old friend, female, and it was through email. Uh, but it was so weird, and it gave me pause, made me sit back and say, "Oh my God, what's going on? What just happened?" And if you know anything about me, well, I'll just tell you right now. I'm looking for a job. I left my other job. I've been job hunting for about a month now. And one of the things they say when you're out there doing a job hunt is that you have to leverage your network. And so I leveraged my network. I leveraged my network on LinkedIn. I'm one of those early adopters. I was on LinkedIn back in I think 2004. And so I started leveraging my network, and this weird coincidence, I saw that an old friend of mine, female friend, back in my filmmaking days, had just reached a milestone at work. She had reached multiple decades of service at a particular company, and that was amazing. And and when I saw that, I was like, "Holy crap!" I didn't know that she worked for this company that's in the entertainment industry. It's a company that's in the entertainment industry that I used to dream about when I was making movies, when I was making little independent films. I would dream about being on that lot of that company. And I said, "Wow, this is well, good for her, good for her." Then, doing my job search thing, I found out that that company is they have a gig open, a senior level management director position open that 100% fits what I do and what I can do, and what I've been just recently studying for and training for. And I'm like, holy crap, let me go there. And I'm thinking, okay, this is divine intervention. I saw that post and now I see this job, so let me fill out this job. And then I'm thinking, well, hold on a second. They always say that you should leverage your network and reach out and ask for referrals, because when you fill out these not interviews, but the job applications, they always ask, do you know somebody who works here? Do you have a family member who works here? Have you ever worked here in the past? And I'm always like, no, 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 no. And now I'm like, holy crap, I do know somebody. So I decided, okay, let me reach out to her and just say, hey, would you mind giving me a referral for this position? Or at least tell me something that I can do to boost my chances. Granted, we haven't spoken, we haven't talked in years. Okay. So I tried to be as professional, diplomatic, and just, you know, uncreepy as possible. And I talked about, some of the interactions that we had had in the past. Back again when I was making films, I had connected her with a friend of mine who had just made a movie and a little independent film, and he had a screening and he needed a photographer, and I know she was a creative type. He had asked me to do it, and I was like, no, that's not my thing. But I put the two of them together, and then she went there, she got free tickets, she went to hang out on the red carpet and blah 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 blah. And then so that was a real cool experience for her from what I heard. So I reached out, I mentioned some of that stuff, and I said, hey, can you hook me up with a referral, or whatever you can do, a good word. And so I sent that on LinkedIn, and then I sent it again in email, because I still had her email address. And again, we haven't spoken for many, 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 many years. So she never responded to the LinkedIn thing, but she did respond to the email. And she just came out by saying that it wasn't about the fact that I was asking for help or support. It was about the way that I was asking for help. And that explicitly she said, I was reaching out to her as if she was some 20-year-old female with no self-esteem. She brought up a valid point, and through all of the musings and brainstorming I did about this letter, reaching out to her, coming up with this contact email, dumbass me, I never said, hey, how are you doing? I just assumed that she was okay. Okay. So I never said, how are you doing? I never said those words. That's my fault. But the whole thing about speaking to her like she was some 20-year-old with no self-esteem, I was like, where the hell is this coming from? Because we're both, well over 50. We're both well over 50. And, but the idea that, and I'm going to show what my letter was and what her letter was. I was boggled by this, and I just said, is this the mindset of Western women? That they look at a perfectly direct and simple email, and then they read all this other stuff into it and then respond without checking themselves, without any sense of accountability, without any sense of, hey, why am I writing this right now? And if her point was to say, hey, I'm not going to do it, because she never said she wasn't going to do it in the email, and you'll see it because I'm going to post it. She never said she wasn't going to make a referral. She didn't say she was going to give me a referral. She just let it drift in the air like a feather in the air. Like, who knows where it's going to land? And I know that was deliberate. And so it's this game playing BS that you have to deal with Western women. And I was mind boggled, but I wrote back and I said, hey, I apologize. You're absolutely right. I should have said somewhere in there, hey, how are you? That's my fault. And I said, hey, all I can say is that I'm not used to reaching out and asking for help. I'm not used to reaching out and asking for favors. That I'm typically the person people come to for favors. So I don't know the dynamics of how to make it not sound weird. And in the process of trying to make it not sound weird, I probably sounded weird. So I apologize. And then I asked a series of questions. How are you? What are your plans for retirement? Blah, 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 blah. I said, forget about the referral thing. Forget about my request. How are you? So I still haven't heard from her, and I don't expect to. And I certainly don't expect to get the referral. It would have been a sweet job, though. Oh, my God. Oh, so sweet. So sweet. To be back on a movie lot. Oh, God. It would have been so great. But, hey, que sera, sera. I would have felt better if she simply said, hey, no, I don't have pull like that. Oh, I can't do it. Or, hey, no, I really don't feel comfortable because we haven't spoken in a long time. So I really don't feel comfortable making this recommendation for you. Perfectly acceptable. But this weird shit, it's like whatever she's going through, I'm sorry that she's going through that, but that shit's got nothing to do with me. I didn't put you in this situation. I didn't, force you to retire. I didn't And I didn't make your body old. I didn't do any of that stuff. That has nothing to do with me. But it's quite easy to find and latch onto the first escape clause that you can use in order to not be accountable for your own feelings in your own situation. And quite frankly, this long story to say, I don't deal with that kind of stuff at that level with my wife, because she's got a different mindset. She knows that we got to work. She knows that we got to communicate. She knows that we got to talk. Does she always want to talk? Of course not. Does she always want to work together? Of course not. Neither do I. But when it comes time to working together, we are two verbal creatures. And we do what we need to do and say what we need to say and behave the way that we need to behave to make it work. Excuse me. We don't get wrapped up into this sanctimonious, feel bad for me, I need attention, I need validation, I need affirmation kind of BS. And that's what that email, to me, that's what that email was about. That when I asked her a question, when I asked for her support, I didn't distinctly validate her existence. And I'm like, you're a grown ass woman, 60 plus years old, probably, and yet you still need validation from a man. What's wrong with you? And so that upset me. And so I wiped that job opportunity completely off my list. And I said, que sera, sera. But this is what happens when you deal with Western women. You have to fight all of their other demons. You have to fight all of their other trauma. You have to fight all of their other drama. So it's demons, drama, and trauma that you got to fight in order to have a good relationship with them. And I'll have to do that with Nghia. And we're in a bit of a tight situation right now, but we've been working together and supporting each other and taking care of business. And I know, because I'm divorced. I know that I know how this would have gone if I had been, if I was married to an American woman. I know how this situation that I'm in right now, I know exactly how it would go down. I know exactly how it would go down, because they would be thinking, my life is supposed to be better. I'm not supposed to have hard times. I'm not supposed to face this difficult situations. You're supposed to make it all better, boo. Why aren't you making it all better, boo? And that's what they'd be doing. But instead, Nghia and I are working together hand in hand. And you say, how do I know this? Because I've gone through it before. I've been married. I've been married. I went out and got second jobs and third jobs and worked on the weekends and worked late at night to bring in extra cash, and said, no, honey, go ahead, stay home. No, honey, you want to work? Let me help you do your resume. I've done all that kind of stuff. And then as soon as times got tough, but I'm not going to go down that road. That's a whole nother video. But I just want to say that, yeah, it's a risk when you bring your fiance to the United States to live. It's a big risk, because everyone's in her ear trying to make her this this Western woman, this liberated woman, this feminist, this stand up for your rights, as if I'm oppressing her. And it's off on a tangent, but you don't know about oppression until you've been a black man. You don't know about oppression until you've been a black man. So yeah, it's hard to do that. with a woman who, your wife, who's from Southeast Asia. It's hard to deal with that, but when you find the right woman and you are the right kind of man, and you talk and you share and you explore, and you're vulnerable, and you take charge, and you're not afraid of challenges, you face them together, it's a great and beautiful thing. And I know that my wife, Nghia, has learned to be stronger. She's learned to be more powerful. She's learned to be, I should say, empowered. She's learned to be more positive. And she's learned all of this from me. And I've learned to be more accepting. And I've learned to be not so hard. I've learned to be not so black and white. And so we fill each other's nooks and crannies. And that's what a relationship is supposed to be. So I'm sorry, I know this video is kind of long, but I just wanted to share that story time with you. Shout out to my friend in Vietnam with his wife. He's waiting on his interview at the embassy so that he can bring her back here for a period of time. He's been hanging out in Vietnam all this time. I'm like, dude, go what you got to do. He's been doing the visa runs into Cambodia, into Thailand, into Singapore, all of that stuff. I am jealous, but I wish the best for him. And man, there's so much more going on and so much more happening. And I want to share it with you in hopes that I can give some clarity to your life and some clarity to my own. All right. Thank you for being around. Please, I'm trying to reach that 1,000 marker time. So reach out, give me a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Deuces. Peace out.